Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's live stream. If you have any questions, as usual, feel free to ask in the chat. We're gonna take a look back at this crazy week, talk a little bit about this dump, as well as this move to the upside here. I did a little bit of analysis. I think it was Wednesday. Gosh, let me think about this. I'm getting the days all mixed up here. Yeah, so it was in the Wednesday live stream that I talked a little bit about this PA, this price action in April. And I kind of said I would do a little bit of a review on it because I missed this move to the upside. I caught some short. I shorted here, then closed it. So I missed this move down. And I was anticipating more of a breakdown here, just given the price action. And I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what, and I mentioned the Discord. I said, let's take a look back and ask ourselves what we could have done to catch some of these larger moves here, right? So we'll review this last week, kind of overlook the last month because the monthly close is we have a new month, May, starting on Monday. So we can expect some like end of month shenanigans, and we'll take a look at the monthly chart and just kind of talk about like where bulls and bears probably want to have a close on some at some levels, and then we'll take a look at this lower time frame stuff as well. So let's hop over to this chart. Is this the one I want? All right, let's look at a monthly level here. I'm gonna hide this. Yeah, hindsight trading is so clean. I mean, if you just like look here at the 2017 2018 high here, you can see we virtually just tested that level, deviated below, and are now breaking back up to the upside. And you can see here what was one support after this infamous May 2021 dump here. That area of support is now acting as resistance. And I can't emphasize enough, in the Discord as of late, a lot of people, or a couple people are saying, well, why have we been just actively shorting? Why have you been so bearish? It seems like you've just been looking for short after short after short. And just to give you an example, I was looking to short in here, like after this, because I wanted to sweep these lows and then have continuation to the upside. Price instead broke up. I was looking to short in here, and of course I ended up closing that short, which caused me to miss this move down, which is fine. It is what it is. And in here again, I was looking for some degree of a breakdown because I was short from, God, I don't know. I think I was just short from range highs here. I was trading this range. And again in here, I was looking for a short, which we got this move down, and I felt very fortunate to have caught that move to the downside. I mean, this was just a massive, you do not, I mean, look at price action. You do not see these candles very often. And, the last time we did was, March 22nd. So a little over a month ago. You don't get those really big candles like that so often. So I felt very lucky to have gotten that short here. And then, of course, since then, price has retraced back, near the highs that were put in over here. So again, like there was kind of this, well, like why are we so often looking for shorts? And well, the reason being is I can't emphasize enough, everybody is incredibly bullish and saying, yeah, Bitcoin is, going to go higher and higher and higher. We've had this massive pump. Why would you short anymore? It's we're going to see continuation to the upside, and we're seeing crazy targets thrown up there. upwards of 40K, and we haven't even had a clean break above 30. Here's the reason why. The reason is that, you know, I was interested in longing in here. I was interested in catching longs in here. I was interested in longing here. I was even interested in longing in this breakout. I vividly remember saying, hey, we rejected once, we rejected twice. The next time that we hit this, we're going to break straight through, right? And now at this point, as I've said to a lot of you guys, or as I've said often in the past, is that I have a lot of reason to believe that this 35 target is the one that we want to look for ultimately some degree of a rejection, right? Sort of like a final leg for this. Now, that said, things don't always go exactly as planned. Things are not perfect. So what I'm pointing out is that we are in some degree of a zone that I'm interested in a swing short. Price wise, timing wise, just all together, you know, you don't have to catch the exact top, but if you're able to get positioned in here, my opinion is that it will pay off when we do eventually get a move down to the downside, because I think it'll be a significant move. And if you just look back, I mean, again, you can see I've highlighted it with this rectangle here. When we got this first break to the upside, where did we come back for support? Okay. When we had this massive breakdown, where did we find support, right? When we had this massive breakdown and continuation, we had a brief pause in here, right? It's because this 27 to 31K zone is a very, very important zone, right? It's a very important SR flip zone, right? We broke through here, back tested it, support, broke up, came back down, back tested as a support, broke up. Here, was testing as support, no strength, broke down, right? We broke down out of it. And my theory is much like what happened in here, is that we're not necessarily going to just break through it on the first attempt. So look what happened here at 25, right? Okay, broke down, tested it again here at 25, and what happened? Okay, we broke down. And after that breakdown, we came back up, tested it again, and broke to the upside. And ultimately, that's my thought process. I really want to address this because a lot of people, like I said in the Discord, are like, why are you actively looking for shorts? Why aren't you longing more? And you guys are welcome to take any trades that you like. You know, you're totally welcome to. You don't have to just take the ones that I am. But the fact of the matter of it is that, you know, we've had, if you kind of look at this, right, look at it like here is this, okay, then we broke down and we had an attempt at resistance here, right, and then we had more of a significant breakdown. And for me, this first attempt at this major resistance, which, by the way, if you want to really nail down what that is, you know, it's basically it's the value area high, right, of this previous range. So the value area high acting as resistance, we break down, and for me, this really isn't enough, right? We break down, we back test this weekly level. We had a deviation above this weekly level here, which we could see is really key in this case. Break down, back test it. And now in my eyes, again, we're going to do something like this, have more of a significant move to the downside, to which then price can decide if we're going to then range for a time or, you know, simply break down somewhere in this, you know, somewhere in here, right? And price can decide then if it wants to go back up here, and the next time it does, it's likely that it simply breaks through to the upside, right? So that's ultimately my thought process, and I know over the last month it hasn't exactly been graceful. You know, it's been tough to have shorted a lot of these moves because they've been so aggressive to the upside. And at the end of the day, we've had nothing but down only for well over a year, almost 2 years. So for us now to, you know, be looking to short some of these spots, it's been it's tough to do, right? It's hard when you get these massive moves to the upside like that. So really, that's my thought process with this. I think that we're at a high time frame resistance. I think that this breakdown here and this back test of this weekly, from this deviation here, I think is extremely significant. And we can watch the weekly close if we go on to a weekly time frame here. We can see we closed above, had a massive rejection to the downside, and we're sort of back testing it now. If we close below here on a weekly time frame again, this ultimately this zone is holding as resistance, right? This level, this 29.9 level is holding as resistance. If we go down to a daily time frame, again, deviation, come back test. If we continue to close the daily below this level through into the end of the week, I do think that next week, going into the first week of May, we will see some degree of a move to the downside, right? I would expect, I was hoping for that move to sort of wrap up in the first week of May. I mean, I really would prefer, and we can take a look here. I think I just need to manage my expectations of how realistic a move could be. Within a week's time, let's see if we just had something like this candle here happen. And we have to remember there's quite a bit of FUD going on at that point. Could we see some kind of a move down? Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll have to take a look at it, but I would say like this next week here into early, so from the 3rd to the from the 1st to the 5th that week, if not that week, I would really like to bottom out. If we do see the continuation to the downside that I'm talking about, I would like to see us bottom out between like, the 8th, 9th, and the 10th, somewhere around there, right? So I hope that makes sense for you guys as to why I'm leaning a little bit more on the bearish side and why I would prefer some degree of a move down. I know, believe me, I know how easy it is to be bullish here and think, yeah, we're just going to keep going up. Price is going to keep going up and not have any pullbacks. I totally get that. I mean, we've had basically 100% move up off the lows in a matter of 4 months, 5 months now. So I totally get it. I understand why a lot of people are, very bullish and continuing to look for higher, but I think it would be foolish to ignore just how significant of a high time frame resistance that we are in right now. Now, if so, and we can talk about a couple scenarios that I've already pointed out to you guys. But, if you're looking for swing short positions, it doesn't hurt to enter and have your stop here, or enter and have your stop above this high, even depending on what position size and what kind of risk reward ratio you're looking to trade off of. Doing things like, being positioned like this and, looking to trade it back down to here, you're still getting a 1.5 risk reward ratio, which is really, really nice, right? Going down to here, which, again, 2.7, if you're just looking to trade it down here, which I'm guessing that we might even go a little bit lower and deviate back into this range. I would really love to see some degree of a move to the downside here, a deviation, right? And then, to trade back up. It's possible that that doesn't happen. Maybe we do see some kind of a swing to the upside, and that's something else that we can talk about a little bit. If we go ahead and get out of this chart, we can go over to this one here. Remove this. So you can see, again, I mean, from all of time, literally all of time for BTC, price has spent little to no time whatsoever in this zone, right? Look at this. I mean, literally, it's either support or it's resistance. Price just virtually teleports through this area often. So that's why I think we're in a unique position to where, as I've pointed out in some of my previous analysis here, I think that we're in a unique position to, see some degree of a move down and then some degree of consolidation here. And as you can see, my original plan was to reject from this zone. But it is, it's holding the area. It does look decent. I mean, if you kind of take a step back and look at this here, you can sort of see like this area here, right? Previous range breakdown, deviation, break to the upside. Now this could either be some kind of a deviation again that we have continuation to the downside, or otherwise we're technically holding this area as support, right? That said, we also have this range here. So we're kind of stuck between a couple ranges in terms of, you know, um, determining whether or not we're going to be breaking back up or breaking down, right? So we can see here, have this range that we're currently rejecting from, which is also that weekly level, if you recall. And then, of course, here we have this range. So we're sort of, I've said this a zillion times, but I can't emphasize enough just how key this area is. Because if we truly reject from here, we are going to have more of a significant breakdown, in my opinion. If we break to the upside and can gain acceptance back into this zone, then it's entirely possible that we do see something of a rising wedge. We have this nice swing failure here that coincides quite well with this, right? So we could see, let's say we range, for the weekend or whatever. Let's go down to a lower time frame. Go down to a 4-hour. Let's do 6. So we could see, in the event, let's say that we range for the weekend and then we early next week break to the upside, we can look for, hopefully even sooner than that, we can look for some kind of a move to the upside and a swing failure here, right? For then a move back down to the bottom of the rising wedge and then go ahead and, basically trade it as a wedge, right? 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's kind of messy. So this is one scenario, and it's, it's a fine scenario. I'm not really willing to throw my hat into it yet because, again, I generally believe that we're at a really high time frame resistance, and that I'm just personally going to be expecting further downside. That said, again, if we get that move up, I'm happy and willing to take a short from this wedge, right? Let's take a look here. I have so much stuff here. I'm going to go ahead and start deleting some things. I want to point out, let's hide this. Oops. Here, this has been such a key level. You can see this high put in here, swing failure, reject, 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 breakthrough, attempt to hold a support, break down, and now we're, it's attempting to hold it as support. So you can see like this level here is extremely key. This was a swing short position that I mentioned last live stream, and so far this is playing out so far, right? Stop above this previous high here, these virtually equal highs, and entering at the high here, which if we go ahead and draw this out, is right about the 618, which we have currently rejected from here. Again, another reason why I think that we could see continuation to the downside. And then 2, we do have something of a trend line here that is not really holding up too well, but you can see that we're sort of dancing around it on our third touch. So 1, 2, 3, and you would normally expect some degree of a rejection on the third touch, which, you know, in some ways we, you know, kind of did right here, and we, you know, went back up. And I mean, you can see we've been dancing around this line, and it's been a really key aspect of what's happening here. I mean, if we even just go down to a lower time frame here, just curious. Yeah, I'd be curious to see how this resolves here, but you know, you can see that it's price is very much acknowledging that this trend line is here. I mean, you can see pretty clearly breakthrough, breakdown, back test, break up, support. Now it's, you know, again, broke down from it, attempting to reclaim it as support. So, you know, we'll sort of have to wait and see. And, you know, what happened here is we had some news or something come out about Mt. Gox government, Mt. Gox being able to move their coins or whatever. It was a false alarm, which caused this move down here. So this, to me, was an artificial move to the downside that, you know, was then quickly bought back up. And now, you know, price is simply virtually back in the range it was before, right? And it's ultimately going to do whatever it came to do in the first place, that it was going to tackle at, you know, at this area here. So whether that's break to the upside, you know, and take out that previous high at about 32K, or was simply to range in here and eventually break down, right? So we'll have to look for a couple of those scenarios. But I mean, all things considered, when you look at the chart, you consider rather high time frame resistance. This, in my opinion, this is worth the short, in my opinion, right? When you're thinking in terms of probabilities, all right, and here's the deal. I just want to point out that when we were trading, and I'm not exaggerating when I tell you this, not zero exaggeration. When we were trading in here through this whole period, before we even started pumping, I'm talking during the time of down only, this period here, I did live streams, I posted charts, and I vividly remember saying this multiple times. I said, at some point, we're going to have a bear market rally. Price is going to pump to the upside, and we're going to reach this zone. Price is going to be trading at about 30K. And everybody on crypto Twitter, all of your friends, everyone's going to be reaching out to you. They're going to be extremely bullish. They're going to be saying we're going to go to 40, 50, maybe new all-time highs. Everyone's going to be you know, looking to long or enter positions, and your buddies who aren't even in crypto are going to be asking you about it again, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And here we are at that exact price point that I'd mentioned, right? Right in this zone. We're there. And what's happening? People are very bullish. They're calling for more upside. I've had a lot of my friends start to reach out to me and say, hey, man, what's happening with Bitcoin again? Should we start trade? Should I long? Should I start buying again? And the answer for me is no. This was the time to buy. No one was reaching out, you know, when Bitcoin was below 20K, when it was dirt cheap, right? Now it's up 100%. And people are saying, oh my God, yeah, time to long. We're going to 40K. We're going to keep going. We're at a major high time frame resistance. This is our first time testing it in literally a year. We haven't been at this price in a year. We're getting there for the very first time, and we're just going to break right through it and have continuation to the upside. To me, that sounds insane. I think that's insanity. So, you know, I'm sticking to my long-term plan, and that was like my vision from the beginning, was is that we're going to reach this level, and we are going to have some degree of rejection from it. It's not going to be just simply cut straight through. Right? Now, that said, that isn't to say we couldn't maybe have a move up, swipe the high of that range, right? The high of that range, and then have, you know, continuation to the downside. And that's something that we'll have to, you know, watch and wait and see. But in my opinion, this is definitely worth the short. I mean, the risk to reward here on this short is really, really good. Let me show you now on the other side. If you're looking to long, You know, what looks better to you? You know what I mean? Let's just say we modestly go to let's just say we even go to the 25K meme, and I call it a meme because everybody wants us to hit 25. Everyone thinks we're gonna bounce here. From my what I've deterred from social media. You know, if you go ahead and you look at some of this analysis here, and you say, well, this is kind of our first target zone for support. You know, you have a 5.5 risk to reward ratio versus a 1.4 to the upside. All right. Let's even tie this in a little bit more. Let's say we're just going to take out this low here. Let's say we want to take profit at this low. That's 3.81 risk reward ratio. Let's say we just take profit at the high. You're not even at a 1-to-1 risk reward ratio from here to the upside. All right. So like, again, when people are asking like, hey, why are we short? Why are you often shorting? Why aren't you looking for a long position in here? And we'll talk a little bit about this zone. I do want to touch base on this, but this is the reason why. Right here, we're at a high time frame resistance. We saw a massive rejection to the downside. We're sitting right at the 618 as well as this trend line here, and I know we're dancing around that zone. But nonetheless, I mean, if we go ahead and pull the value area, the 31K value area from over there, you know, you can see we are inside the value area of that previous range, right? But you know, what did we just back test? The point of control here, right? Which is also the bottom of this upper range here, and we rejected from it. We rejected heavily from that zone, and I know it was based on some alert or something that happened, but nonetheless, we rejected heavily from that zone. We had a daily close below the previous range value area low, and I know we came back up when we closed back inside, but look at what we have not closed above. The daily has not closed above the 618. So for me, when I'm in this zone here, my mind immediately, like my thought is, why would I long here? There's a limited upside from here, in my opinion. And we'll even make this even. We'll go ahead and move this down. We'll move this down to here. You know, you still have 1.8 risk reward ratio versus a 0.8 risk reward ratio, right? And this is just targeting the immediate lows. I'm not even talking about if you were to actually see, you know, what I believe could be a significant move to the downside. If we're just targeting, you know, our next key high and low here, you know, you can see why I would want to favor a short position. It simply makes more sense, right? In terms of being at a high time frame point of resistance, we go to our daily. You can see that we had a massive rejection, a close below the previous range val, and we are still holding the 618 as a level of resistance on a daily time frame. On a weekly time frame, we're holding that weekly level as a point of resistance. So, you know, the resistance is there. I understand on a lower time frame, you know, when you go to this lower time frame and you see these massive pumps to the upside and everything keeps getting drawn up and oh my God, my short keeps getting round tripped. Well, on a lower time frame, yeah, absolutely, you can see that. But if you go on to a higher time frame and you simply enter a short in this area and you have your stop either above, you know, the value area higher above the previous high, and you simply, you know, just wait day in and day out and not watch the 1 minute chart or the 5 minute chart or the 15-minute chart or the 1 hour chart or anything like that, and you trade this higher time frame, you know, you trade this as it is, as a higher time frame resistance zone, like it should be traded as. This is a 618 backtest that's holding, and it looks great. You know, so that's where my mind is. I hope that gives you guys a little bit of perspective into like why I'm trading the way I'm trading here. I was happily looking for longs, you know, all into this, but now we're at a point where I'm not as interested. You know, and that's not to say that we can't take lower time frame longs, which there are a handful here that I would have been very happy to take, and we can take a look at that, you know, very briefly here. At this point, you know, I was definitely looking for some degree of a continued breakdown. And the thing that I could have saw that would have, you know, encouraged me to maybe flip my bias, you know, was that then we had this move to the upside. People were very bearish here, right? Including myself, expecting further continuation to the downside. We had this attempted breakdown below the low, closed just barely, right? Just barely. Basically, calling this somewhat of a swing failure pattern, right? To sweep below like that. And then to break back to the upside when we came back in here and all of a sudden, we're holding this area as support again. This would have been, in terms of a risk reward, this would have been a worthwhile risk, right? Even just to trade it back to the high, you would have had a 2.87 risk to reward ratio, right? So even this would have made it, very much worthwhile. And for me, that's something that I missed, right? Based on my bias. And I was hedged at long here, and my hedge got taken out when we swept this low, right? And at that point, when we swept the low and we didn't have continued breakdown, that's when I should have said to myself, I'm going to flip. But I didn't do that. I was pretty frustrated with how I managed my trading here. So I simply logged off the charts and I just took a break from it because I don't like to trade when I'm in that mindset, right? So this is something that next time, and I've put this into my journal entry and talked a little bit about this, is the next time that I do see something like this, where we're at a point where we've had a significant break to the downside, people are, ultimately very bearish, and we're putting in some degree of a range here, we could see that this area is holding a support, and we have something of a swing failure below that low, a break back to the upside, and we're continuing to hold range lows. At that point, when we're thinking of probabilities, you say, well, it definitely could continue to break down here. There's really not a whole lot of reason why it couldn't, right? That said, in terms of probabilities, we did have an attempted breakdown and it failed. It failed. And we're continuing to hold this level as support. So why not open up a long position there, right? And at the very least, look to trade it to range highs, in which we could see that if you would have held this to the very high, you would have had a risk to reward ratio of 10 on that, right? So this would have been a really, really, really nice trade. And of course, no one caught the very bottom and caught the very top. Of course, you're taking profit along the way, or you closed a little bit earlier or something like that. But nonetheless, this provided a lot of really great opportunity. And that's definitely something that in the future, I'm going to be keeping an eye on. I'm honestly stunned that I didn't take the long trade. This is definitely, I talk about swing failure patterns all the time. I just did a tutorial on one. It's on my website if you guys want to watch it. And this is exactly the scenario that I talk about in that tutorial, is seeing a range put in, a sweep of the low, and then something of a breakout to the upside, for a potential reversal. So anyway, that's sort of my thought process for where we're at right now. I do expect, if we have continuation to the downside, for that bottom to be put in within this upcoming week or the week after. And we're going to look for, a couple areas, like I've talked about in the past. Down here is a really key zone for me. This green box here, as well as this high time frame trend line here, for me is extremely key place that I will definitely be looking for a long position. We have so many levels of support down here. Otherwise, we can simply watch for maybe swing failures of certain lows. We can go ahead and pull this up here, actually, just very briefly. I have it. We can look for swing failure of some of these lows for potential long opportunities. And I wouldn't even be surprised to see something of a long opportunity from this area here. And, I think that would look like something like this, where we come down, bounce, spend very little time here, basically chug back up to this zone, and then range in here to fill this volume gap, right? Or it's down here and then we come up and fill this volume gap. Something like that is ultimately what I'm looking for here, right? So I think there's one more chart I just want to share with you guys. Yep, it's this one here. This chart here, again, this is kind of the reason why I would be looking at that 24 range. You can see that we do have some degree of support here to the downside. The bottom of this channel, we have the 19 to 30K value area high marked there at about 24,500. We also have this little area here that price spent some time that could provide some degree of support. You can see, I'm sure we could find some order blocks there if we go down to a particular time frame, maybe a 6-hour order block, certainly a 4-hour order block just right below that 24,500 zone. So yeah, this green box here would definitely be, you know, for me, some degree of a possible area that I would be looking for, um, you know, that I would be looking for support, my first area of support. Otherwise, going down to that 23K level, which is that monthly there, that on this chart marks the top of this green box. That's that monthly level right here. I can go ahead and pull that up so you guys can see it just a little bit more visually here. So you can see that we have a monthly naked point of control just right around that level as well. So again, you know, really, really key for me in this area. Otherwise, that 24K zone. So we'll just have to wait and see where it winds up. But if you go into a 4-hour time frame, again, like I can't emphasize enough, we're at a high time frame place here. If we break down from this little box, this area here, I don't think we're going to stop here again. I do think that we're going to go lower. We have some bearish divergences here, as you can see on the RSI. We are at a high time frame resistance level. We're back testing this area of resistance. We're below the weekly, the 29.9 weekly level. We're closing below the 618 on a daily time frame here. There are so many reasons, in my opinion, to believe that this will provide a really good swing short. Okay, it's just going to take a matter of patience, and you know, you can use lower time frames to your advantage to maybe snipe some degree of a better entry. But again, I just really, I believe that we're due for some degree of a breakdown here. Bearish divergences, holding it on the 618, closing below that weekly level at a high time frame resistance. I just don't see the continuation to the upside. That said, we have to keep an open mind. If we do continue to the upside, well, then this is my target zone, right? So keep that stuff in mind. I hope that gives you all a little bit of insight as to what I'm thinking and why I've been eager to short, you know, up in here, why I've been eager to short in here, and why I'm expecting, you know, a breakdown. I mean, look at look at all these equal lows here. I mean, these lows are just begging to all get swept out. So yeah, in my opinion, I do think that we see that sweep, right, based on everything that I talked about here and where we're at. So we'll go ahead and cut it off there. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask in the Discord. Otherwise, as always, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. And again, feel free to ask me things if you guys do have any questions about my analysis here today. But I really hope that this sort of I've talked a lot about these things, but I think to put it all in one stream and keep it really concise and put together, I hope that it gives you some insight as to why I'm more interested in shorting in this upper zone than I am interested in opening a long position. Right? When we break down and have moves to the downside, I will be very happy to look for a long position, and I'm a little surprised at myself for not catching one here. But nonetheless, my original analysis, the reason I said I'm not interested in longing here, because this area is not going to bring us to new highs. Longing in here is not going to bring us all the way up here, was my original analysis. I had said, at the very least, it'll bring us into this zone. And as that analysis was pointed out, you can see here, that's basically what has happened, right? I drew this brush out here last Friday, a week earlier from today, and we can see that we hit that zone exactly, and it is holding as resistance. So if I am going to stick to my original analysis that I pointed out, I am still looking for continuation to the downside. If we do not get that, you guys know the bullish scenario. So I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. But as always, thank you for joining me for today's live stream.